My energy is one of love, care, respect, and integrity. That's just how I carry myself now. When I speak with people, they feel my energy more than they hear my words. If I had sent those same words, he would have read it in his energy, which is frustrated, annoyed, and angry. So he would have read me as frustrated, annoying, and angry and could have hated his own energy. But speaking with me when I have love, care, and respect, you can never get that from me. Even if I say the words that you would read in anger, just my presence and who I am is not going to have that come across.
Welcome to Give a Heck. I am your host, Dwight Heck, and for much of my life, lived my life in quiet desperation, wondering how I was going to pay the bills, take vacations, save for retirement, and one day wondering if I would get off the hamster wheel of life and have purpose. A life that most of society lives, which takes us to work, then home, then repeat, and pays us hopefully enough just to survive. The harsh truth that most live with more month than money and have no idea how to live life on purpose, not by accident. This ensures the mass majority are living not just financially broke, however emotionally and mentally as well due to financial pressures. In each episode, I will introduce you to thoughts, ideas, and guests that can help you to learn how you too can live life on purpose, not by accident. Good day, and welcome to Give a Heck. On today's show, I welcome Matt O'Neill. Matt teaches us that happiness is a choice, even when life gets tough. His work has positively impacted the lives of over 100,000 people worldwide. As a recognized leader in happiness education, Matt teaches audiences how to live a life of conscious happiness. His work includes the Good Morning Revolution book and podcast, where he explains the importance of conquering negative thought patterns while embracing habits that lead to a happier life. Matt's teaching isn't just theory, it's tested in the real world too. Matt's unique approach to choosing good moods, even in the face of adversity, will resonate with each one of us. I'd like to welcome you to the show, Matt. Thanks so much for agreeing to come on and share with us some of your life journey.
What's up, Dwight? Dude, so happy to
Awesome,
be
brother.
here.
Oh,
Man,
I'm happy to.
we've been cutting it up for 30 minutes before we hit record. I feel like we've already had a whole podcast of happiness. Dude, you've got happiness down.
Well, I hope so, brother. Again, like you and I talked about in that 30 minutes, and especially for those listeners that have been around. And I want to say a special shout out to those listeners that have been around for the last 200 and some episodes. Thank you so much for supporting the show. They know I have my character building moments. That's what I call them. That's what my life involves. Not negativity. I have character building moments, and I build upon them to make myself better and to be happier. And our conversation was amazing the first 30 minutes. I get many guests telling me, why wouldn't you just hit record right when we come on? Because we wasted all this good conversation. And I said, well, we didn't waste nothing.
That's right.
This is a precursor to the amazingness that we haven't even shared yet
Yeah.
with
And
the
and
audience,
you know,
right?
this is one of the things is that relationships are part of the keys to happiness. In fact, life is just relationship. And anything we do because we wonder how it's going to affect other people or how we'll be viewed in other people's eyes. So, mastering relationship, which is something you definitely have mastered, is one of the keys to living a happy life.
No, I appreciate that, brother. And for those listening, you know, buckle up because this episode is going to be absolutely amazing after researching and putting together for the show. As those listening know, I do. Yesterday, I was so excited. And then this morning, when I woke up, I couldn't wait for this to happen because um, at the end of the day, we hear this statement, and we're going to talk about this, Matt. But for the listeners and people watching on YouTube, we hear this comment all the time. I just want to be happy. And I look at people and go, well, what are you doing to be happy? Happiness isn't something like air. It's just not, it's, you're not just breathing it in. It's, you got to be intentional. You got to be purposeful to get
Well,
to that happy
well,
point.
here's, I want to give some empathy to all of us, we all want to be happy. Everything we're doing, anything that anyone is doing is because they think it's going to improve their happiness, even when it's so destructive and it's absolutely counter happiness. It is still actually for ultimately them being happy. The thing is, we're not taught how to be happy. In fact, we're taught the opposite. If you look at society, society is trying to tell us how to build status, how to build wealth, how to look more famous, how to be more attractive. Society is telling us that that's the key to happiness, that what you achieve in the external world is going to make you happy. But then you chase after all of that stuff and you're on social media and you're comparing yourself to how you look to other people and what they have to what you have, and you never really feel very good about it. So society is where we get our cues on how to be happy. It just doesn't have the answers.
Well, yeah. How many likes did you get today? How many comments? Oh my goodness, I only got 20 views and yesterday I had 200, and it's so much pressure. Hey Matt, like the amount of pressure that we put on ourselves and that we not just put on ourselves, that we put on other people for them to make us happy. Well,
Sure.
if you do that, if you do this, it'll make me happy. What?
Or don't do that because that makes me angry.
Yeah, yeah. There's always It's conditions. Here's a
Yeah.
condition on Matt and I being friends. Matt, you always got to make me happy. You can
Yeah,
never make me sad.
I gotta agree with everything that you say, and I've got to make sure that I say things that are gonna make you smile. Well, hey, here's the thing: is that happiness will never be found in the external world. It won't be found in the approval of others, or if we have the right car, if other people think that we're doing well. Happiness is an internal feeling. It's an internal feeling that it exists at all moments when we're not ruining it with bad mood thinking. And there's eight primary bad moods. And in the absence of those eight primary bad moods, what we feel is happy with this moment. Like this moment without negativity in it is really, really pleasant.
It's
You could
blissful.
you could sit here, you
It's
could breathe,
awesome.
you could say, oh man, it's nice to be in this moment right now. Like it's so nice to be here today. Or we've got one of these eight bad moods running through our mind, and we're like, oh, it's miserable to be who I am today. And we've got all these reasons for it, but it's all just mental. It's all just
Yeah,
mental stories we tell ourselves that get in the way of this blissful, beautiful moment.
I can't wait. We're going to get into that in a moment. But there's listeners probably listening going, get to the origin story. What are you doing? You're not following your formula. Guess
Well,
what?
we're just having too much fun, man.
There's no real formula. It's called conversation.
Yeah.
And somewhere in between I add in some, a little bit of extra spice and flair, right? So one of the things though that I mentioned, and Matt, you've listened to my show, so you understand, and the listeners know for sure. New to the show, I focus on a person's origin story, and that's where we're gonna go right now. I want to find out from Matt his earliest recollections when Matt was a little boy to where he is today. Because for those new to the show, most people don't give their origin enough. They give it either too much or not enough energy. Because really, there's things that have happened in your life that you may not even realize were a trigger to what you did in your youth, in your as a teenager, into adulthood, and good, bad, or ugly when you unpack that and you share with people, we all get to know, like, and trust you. Vulnerability is more important than people realize. Obviously within measured dose. So we don't need a fire hose. We just wanted people to share with us their origin and exactly what caused them to get where they're at today. Doesn't have to be bad, doesn't have to be necessarily great, but we just like to know, Matt. So please tell us from your earliest recollections to where you are today, how your life's been, brother.
Yeah, one of the keys to happiness is tracing the origin. And typically we're unhappy because, these eight bad moods that get in the way, because somebody harmed us. And that person that harmed us, you want to not just look at your origin and say, for me, it was my dad. My dad was like really a difficult person to be raised by, to be around, for anyone. He's just a really tough guy. But, someone that hurt you, they only did that because they are hurting so much inside. And so it's actually a really healthy thing because forgiveness creates happiness, holding on to the negativity doesn't, is to trace back the origin further than yourself. And so I did this exercise when I became emotionally aware enough to say, okay, I'm no longer a victim to my dad's abuse. I now want to move into forgiveness. And to do that, I need to see that, hey, he was doing the best he could, even though it was terrible. Like he couldn't do very well. Why couldn't he do very well? Sit back before him and then before his father. So in the mid 1800s, there was a potato famine in Ireland, and millions of Irish people were starving. It was unnecessary. Uh, I don't need to get into it, but I've been to Ireland. I've seen this story. It was an unnecessary suffering. Well, my family was caught up in it. People could barely survive, right? So there's no money. And Maggie Goggins O'Neill and Francis John O'Neill packed their two boys to a ship and with the only money that they had, and they came to the United States, and this was early 1900s, so 1904. Uh, Poverty, extreme poverty. Um, my my great grandmother Maggie gets tuberculosis. Her oldest son gets tuberculosis. They die. Now my great grandfather is just has his dad. His dad, with all the pain of losing his beloved wife, becomes an alcoholic and takes it out on the kid. And so now this little boy, John, who's just like 6 years old, getting beat, doesn't have a mom, nobody loves him. He's like, all right, well, I guess I deserve to be beat. And then his dad dies at work. His dad gets kicked by a horse. He worked in the police station with the horses and got kicked by a horse and he died. And now my great grandfather's an orphan, nobody there to care for him. Our young mind can't comprehend that, hey, these people didn't mean to abandon me, but I'm abandoned. And so the young mind says, well, I guess I'm not good enough to deserve a parent to care for me. I'm not lovable enough to have a mom to love me. There's something wrong with me. This is what all child minds do. We're all narcissistic as a child because we only can view things from our own mind. And so he grows up thinking that he's unlovable. Well, at the same time that he's growing up through that experience, my grandmother in Michigan is her her dad also died of tuberculosis when she was one. Early 1900s, her mom's like, man, I can't provide for a baby and myself. Women couldn't get jobs at that time. It's early 1900s. They weren't educated. So she gives my grandmother away to her parents, and she has a whole new family with a new man, five other kids. And my grandmother's being raised outside and saying, I'm not lovable. My
Wow.
mom gave me away. I'm not lovable. I don't deserve parents. God took my dad because I don't deserve a dad. This is what a little child's mind will come to. These are the conclusions that we make. Now, is it true? Absolutely not. Both of my grandparents were definitely lovable. They just came to conclusions that they were unlovable. This is the one of the eight bad moods. It's actually the most destructive one. It's the emotion of shame, this emotion of rejection. And the world just rejects you sometimes, and it's not personal, but we make it personal. So time passes. As soon as my grandfather, with this feeling of shame that he's not worthwhile, meets my grandmother, where she doesn't think she's worthwhile, like energy attracts like energy, instant attraction. They get married, they have two boys, and guess what they teach their two boys? You're not lovable. Because they didn't love themselves, how could they possibly extend love to these kids? And so my grandmother never held my dad. She never held his brother. She told them that they were dirt. She told them that they were disgusting, that they were awful, that they wouldn't amount to anything. They believed her. And so then they don't have their own mom doesn't love them. They're like, well, I guess I'm unlovable. Again, untrue. And my grandma's doing the best she can. She just didn't have a mom. She didn't have a dad, right? So she didn't know any better. And this is, if you trace back the pain of your origin story, you will find pain that created your pain. And so I did this, and I see why when my dad was my dad, why he told me I was unlovable, why he never told me he loved me, why he told me I wasn't good enough, why I wouldn't amount to anything, why everything I did wasn't enough. And then I believed him because I was a little kid. And like he's my hero, right? So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I suck. And at the same time, I was given a blessing. I was given a mom who loved me unconditionally. And my mom just told me over and over and over, I will love you no matter what. And you can never do anything to lose my love. And that was God protecting me. Right. But still, I had this wound of a dad who then my dad leaves the family and never like communicates with us. We see him every once in a while. And every time I do, it's more pain. And I'm like, all right, well, I have these like thoughts that I'm just not worthwhile. So I'll go prove that I'm worthwhile. And I went out and I conquered, right? Was super successful. And as I'm having all of this external success to fill these feelings that I'm not enough, that maybe were inherited, right? Maybe through the Irish potato famine and the orphan, and like maybe this emotion of shame is actually delivered through your DNA and is something that I have to heal for my entire family line. I mean, we might this there's studies, you know, there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score that talks about this, how sometimes the emotions aren't even ours, they're inherited. And anyway, I've got them. And so I fall into daily drug and alcohol use daily, like just numb out this pain, and then show up to work and kick ass. Right. And, um, and after I succeeded, but felt awful as I'm succeeding, I said, all right, there's got to be a better way. All I really want is to feel happy. And no matter how much I succeed, how much money I get, how much fame I have, how many people like me, it doesn't actually make me feel good inside. So, how do I feel good inside? And then at that point, I started to study happiness like a maniac. And so, for the past 2 decades, I have been so engrossed with what actually makes us happy and how to no longer suffer so I can teach other people how to get out of what I was in.
Wow, you've that's amazing. Like I realize when we were talking about it and when I mentioned about the origin from, our earliest recollections, the learned behavior is so powerful. I look back in the generations of my family. My parents were first generation Canadians. Their parents come from Europe. And literally, I look at the struggles they went through. Like I kind of even my dad, how my dad is more stoic and more in some ways standoffish. He's loving, he cares, but he's also has learned behaviors from his parents, which come from their parents. Like you're saying, it's that learned behavior is tough, but it's key though to recognize it. And I appreciate you saying that. Sometimes you need to look beyond yourself, beyond your years to see where the brokenness potentially happened so that you can move forward, because otherwise who if somebody doesn't break the chain, you could do the same thing to your four beautiful kids, right?
And I absolutely would have. And so I want us to give some compassion to our parents and
Oh,
our
of course.
grandparents as well. Look, in when my dad was being raised in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, dude, there wasn't self-help. There wasn't the YouTube channel you could go to. There wasn't podcasts to listen to. There wasn't Tony Robbins to tell you how to love yourself, or Oprah Winfrey wasn't even on. Like it was the 50s and the 60s. It was go to work, put your head down, work hard. That's it. And if you got feelings, don't talk about them. That was
And
the
who
culture.
and
So
who do you attract? Back then you attracted like-minded people, people that would drink with you, people that would commiserate with you. So you weren't attracting people that were saying, "Hey, maybe you could think this way." Right?
no, there was
Everybody nothing.
no mentors, no
Everybody fit
coaches.
into where they fit in, which was the
Mhm.
same old, really. They were fitting in with the same people that were like them, and everybody's propagating the same message. There was
So
nothing
I
to do a pattern disruption with their lives.
so you and I were raised in the net in that first generation that was coming up with the ability to learn and grow ourselves out of our birth circumstances. And thankfully, I was given the gift of books. Somebody wrote a book about how to feel good, and I read it, and I was like, wow. And at the time, it was self-help, and people and like my friends were like, oh, you need self-help? And I was like, I freaking love self-help. Like nobody else is helping me. So and I just dove so hard into it. And there was like a big stigma. Now it's personal growth, right? It's totally different than self-help. It's personal growth. And now people applaud you for valuing your mental health. At the time, I was like a real outsider for like caring about how to feel better.
And you talk about self-help and personal development, and certain people, I will add, will applaud you. You'll still have the naysayers. You'll still have the problem is now they're more vocal because I call them keyboard warriors, right?
Oh,
Everybody's
right.
right. They on social media they trash you, or even if they aren't doing it on social media, there's people still in my world. I guarantee it. I know because the people that are proud of me and going, good for you. Look what you're doing. Look at the effective change you're doing in your life. And now you're spreading and helping others. Oh, by
Yeah.
the way, Uncle John says this or Aunt Sally says this, right? They think you're sniffing glue or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. But
At
still, and
We can't
even,
please everybody. We still back to we got to please us and then
but we
please the
can't,
small group around us that love
but
us.
we can. And going back to like me talking about how, hey, having compassion for my dad, he was doing the best he could do, but he was so full of hurt that what was coming out was hurt. The person that is criticizing behind a keyboard, that what they really want is they really want happiness, but they think you have something they can't have. And so then they'll say it's inauthentic and it's not real because they don't believe it's actually a reality that you can be happy. But here's a fact: happiness is absolutely available to every single one of us. Yes, it is a skill. And yes, there are actionable things you can learn and improve on. Just like lifting weights grows your muscles, you do certain things and you grow your gratitude and you grow your self worth and you grow your self identity and your confidence. And then your character comes up, your integrity comes up, and all of a sudden you're super loving and compassionate and forgiving and you're happy. And it's not overnight. Just like getting the perfect body probably takes years and years in the gym. Getting the perfect mindset takes years and years and years, and it's never perfect, but it gets better and better and better.
Well, you got to keep on feeling you got to keep on feeling that desire and dream because around us is a society which could be external through social media or it can be our families that are our friends that are negative that can drag us back. So we have to have for me it's having the right tools. Some people will call it weapons, whatever. I think that's a little harsh, but the right tools to live a purposeful life, right? to
Weapons are
to
good.
to
Weapons are good. We
right.
we need to fight off that negativity. I kind of like the thought of having
Yeah.
weapons, having arrows in our quiver to
Well,
fire
that's
when we
good.
need them.
Yeah. Or yeah, and at the end of the day, I just want to be, like you talked about, since you mentioned it, it's gonna go into what I wanted to get you to tell the difference between you talk about happiness and really at the end of the day, how many people listening to this or watching this or people that we just meet on a daily basis have a wrong definition of what happiness is. And I know this is one of the things that you specialize in talking about, like the differences between happiness, joy, pleasure. Could you do me a favor and unpack all that? Like, what is the true definition of happiness and how are joy and pleasure different?
Yeah, I mean it's semantics when we think about it, but typically we are when we think of happiness, we think of this momentary pleasure, like, hey, eating ice cream is a very pleasurable experience, right? Or sexual satisfaction is a pleasurable experience, or accomplishing a goal that we really, really wanted is a pleasurable experience. But anytime we have a momentary pleasurable experience and then we come back down into a state of unease, it's not truly a conscious happiness decision. It's not a lasting happiness decision. And what's in the way are thought patterns that they're root programs that we've believed for years and years and years that are running our life in a negative way. And we need to go find the roots of those. As soon as we pull those root programs up, like lasting happiness is here all the time. It's like it was the blue sky. The clouds of all these negative thoughts come in and cover up the blue sky. But as soon as we move the clouds away, the blue sky is just there again. The happiness and the joy is always there behind the negative thoughts.
Wow. I never thought about it that way. And yeah, it's true because the sun's always in the sky, right? People say the sun is set. No, it's not. It just depends on what circumstances.
Yeah.
Maybe it's
Yeah, maybe
cloudy
we've
or
turned our back
yeah,
to it. Like
yeah,
the earth
exactly.
has turned its back to the sun during night. And this is just a normal part of being human too. But guess what? We can turn back around and we can face the sun again and we can feel that incredible warmth of this happiness that is just our birthright. Our birthright is to feel joyful. And also our birthright is to struggle with it. And the struggle is how we grow. If we just always, I think about us, we're eternal beings. We are eternal beings. We get to have this amazing human experience where we experience this contrast. But before we came here and we saw this contrast, everything was easy and light, and there was no conflict because we weren't trying to survive. We were just eternal, and there's nothing wrong. But if everything is always amazing, how do you really feel amazing? Because you can't really notice it. So we
How do you
notice
differentiate?
Yeah, we notice the highs because we can know the lows. We notice the light within us and we choose it because we know the darkness. And so even our bad experiences, the things we would label bad, like me growing up with the dad I grew up with, are actually gifts. They taught me what I don't want. They taught me what suffering looks like so I can have compassion for someone else who suffers. And also, in contrast to that darkness, this light just feels so freaking amazing.
Oh, it does. That realization that you talk about when we realize that there's lessons to be learned, even in the negative, those of us that can get to a point where we can flip it on a dime. And sometimes I'm not saying timing wise, it has to be immediate, those listening. Sometimes you'll get to a point where it can be immediate. Other times you need to literally you wrap yourself in that because we hide our feelings and emotions. We try to squash them down, compartmentalize them, and that can be harmful as well. Grab that feeling, wrap it around you like a blanket, and then just unpack it. Think about what at least I do that. I'll say, well, I'm feeling this way. Why am I feeling this way? Ooh, it hurts to think about this.
Mhm.
Ooh, I need to. I need to get past this because I'm not going to change myself. Like you talked about the episodes and things that you went through with your father. If you wouldn't have accepted them, your personal development, your self-help journey, your growing wouldn't have happened because we have to accept that not everything's, like we're looking through rosy colored glasses. Not everything's going to be as pleasant as we want it to be. We just have to realize like, oh wow, my happiness, I need to work hard at it. Oh my goodness, today's cloudy. Why is it cloudy? What happened to me? And you mentioned something in prior comment too about gratefulness. That's one thing that society is incredibly weak at. Wouldn't you agree? At being grateful for what we have, starting our day out with gratefulness, ending it with gratefulness. It helps me tremendously.
It's the number one go-to emotion anytime you're not feeling happy. Gratitude is the key. And we can't always go from a negative mood to a positive one on a dime. Like you
Yeah.
said, we can't always flip. And we can share some stories about being in negative moods. I love talking about my negative moods. But you can always go from a negative mood to feeling grateful. And when we're feeling grateful, we have to be grateful to something bigger than ourselves. Like, I'm grateful to be alive. Well, what am I grateful to for being alive? Well, maybe it's to the universe, it's a higher power, it's something that's given me the opportunity to be alive today. And now we start to get out of this self-serving thought process. All of the negative moods are egotistic, self-serving thoughts. And we get into a gratitude to something bigger than ourselves, and we're surrendering to something bigger than ourselves. And that starts to open us up to the possibilities of being happy again. So gratitude, you cannot overdo it. You cannot overdo gratitude. I start my day with it. I move through my day with it. I pray with it. I teach my children to pray with it. Before every meal, we're praying with it. And at night, we're saying our gratitudes. The more and more and more grateful we are, the happier and happier and happier we are.
Isn't that the best type of programming though? And people will go, well, when you teach this stuff and or you tell people how they should interact with others to keep their own internal moods or their emotions at bay, you're manipulating. Well, hey, you know what? Nobody ever said manipulation was bad. All right. It's good.
We're all
Right.
manipulating all the
Absolutely.
time, all the
And
time.
just like I tell people, we're always in sales mode.
Always.
I'm not in sales. Yes, you
Yes.
are.
Yes.
When you go home to your significant other and you're not in the greatest, and they look like they've gone through a tornado and you say, "Oh, you look beautiful." And it's not, it's really, you're thinking to yourself, what the heck did you just go through? You're manipulating them. Come on. Like manipulation. You tell your kids, oh,
Uh,
you're so smart. And because they got a D on their exam. Maybe they
uh,
have the potential of being smart, but they've failed their last six exams. And you're telling them, oh, you're so smart. You're manipulating them to give them confidence so that they can get out of that funk, right? There's nothing wrong with manipulation as long as it's done in a kind, you know, way where you're not doing it to manipulate to get your own,
well,
you
and,
know,
and the more
selfishness.
and the more authentically grateful we can be, the
Oh
better.
yeah.
So if we need to fake it till we make it, that's fine. But the more and more and more we practice gratitude, the more and more and more it just becomes truly authentic. Now, there are times that I am frustrated with something that my wife has done, or something my children have done, or someone I work with has done. And, at that moment, I have to say, is this something that is about me, or is this something that I need to address with them? And I'm not inauthentic. When there's an issue to address, I want to do it in a respectful, kind way, because, and I don't want to say, hey, you're a bad person, or you make me feel, angry, or you make me feel this way, or you make me feel bad. I more want to say, hey, I'm triggered in this situation. It could be me. I'm the one feeling triggered. When this behavior happens, sometimes I get triggered, and then that sends me into a situation where I'm feeling frustrated. I want to own that I don't want to feel frustrated, and you don't deserve my frustration. So it'd be good for us to come up with a solution here, and just talk through it. That way, I'm not placing blame. I'm taking responsibility for my own feeling. And I'm not saying you're a bad person for what you're doing and the way you're acting. I'm just saying the way you're acting doesn't make, it's the way you're acting is triggering something within me that has me feeling frustrated. I don't want to feel this way, nor do I want to feel this way towards you. That's a healthy way to hold somebody accountable, where you respect them.
Oh, absolutely. How many people though, when you talked about that, or we use those statements, you make me feel this way. You no, actually, you make yourself feel that way. And I've gotten to a point, depending on who I'm communicating with, and they'll say that. I actually have somebody, I've allowed my cousin to move in with me recently to help her out as she wants to go back to university and finish her degree. And we'll have conversations, and she'll say statements like that. I'll look at her and I'll go, actually, no, you make yourself feel that way.
Hmm.
And I've started making her not harsh at all. Obviously, like delivery is so important. Our
Yeah.
tonality, our body
Yeah.
language, our eyes, everything about us, our nonverbal communication is more impactful initially before we open our mouth and remove all doubt. And for those listening, when I say opening your mouth, remove all doubt, that can go both ways. You can reaffirm that you're not somebody that should be opening their mouth, or you should be, or you're reaffirming that, hey, you actually care and you want to help change people in their lives and
Now,
the way they think.
Now, I want to say, Dwight, you and I have done a lot of interpersonal work. And typically, when you open your mouth at this point, your level of respect and care and love for somebody is so apparent that they're not going to take easy offense. Before I did all of this work, if somebody was frustrating me, the trigger and the emotion was so strong that even if I tried to say polite words and I tried to say it right, instead of saying, oh, you make me, I say, oh, I feel this way. But the energy of my trigger was so strong that it would immediately create defensiveness in them, and a fight would ensue. So when your heart is not triggered, and when is the best time to have a conversation where you actually want to have something constructive happen. So my recommendation, if you are feeling triggered, if you're feeling angry or frustrated, it's not the moment to have the conversation. Maybe the moment to journal and get your own feelings out. It's one of the best tools you can use, is a pen and a paper. But wait until the trigger's gone to then have a constructive conversation. We don't want to make the other person wrong. It's another thing we do usually when we're having a conversation, is saying, you're wrong, I'm right. More so, we want to say, I want to own what I'm feeling, and I don't want to feel that towards you. And let's work on a solution together.
How does that fit into um, immediately in my mind, I always think about the coaching I give people, and I've done it a couple times this week with people about, like you say, journaling, write it down before you act. Well, I tell people, like, not even on the journaling factor, if they're writing an email, they're writing a text, they're doing anything of that nature where it's in print, they need to understand that the person reading it or even listening to a message, let's say you sent them a voice message or they're listening to you just talk to them face to face. They're interpreting it based on what's going on between their 6 inches between their ears. So if you send a text, I tell people if you're sending an email or a text or something that's in print, always read it out loud. I know myself, if I read something in my brain, it comes across differently in here than it in my heart, right? In my emotional center, based on it's different between hearing it aloud or just reading it in my brain. And I've literally will tell people it's okay, and it's a form of journaling. If you write that email out and you're angry and you're typing away, just promise me you don't send. Why
Yeah.
not? Because I want you to wait. Give yourself a defined window, 3, 4 hours, and then read it again when you've calmed down.
I never
And
want to
then,
send
right?
any I don't want to send anything
Exactly. Read
negative
it.
in writing. I never ever
Ever,
I
ever. It
I
doesn't solve
say
anything.
I say no fighting and writing. That's my little
Thank
rhyme
I
on this.
I like that. No fighting and rating.
And it's
I'm gonna steal that.
I live by it. If I have something critical to say, even if it's a positive form of feedback, I will not do it in writing. And I just had this just on Friday. Somebody that works with us was super angry, not at us. He was just angry about a situation that was happening with somebody else. And he came to my wife, who works with me, and with a leader in our company, and was screaming about how angry he was about this other person. And I wrote a big email on Saturday to him and saying, "Hey, this behavior is not appropriate. In our company, we get our emotional composure in check before we go talk with people in this firm. And both the people you were screaming around didn't feel comfortable, and that's just not how we behave." I put that whole thing in an email that I didn't send to him. And then on Monday, which was just yesterday, I called him and I said, "Hey, how are you?" We built a little rapport. And I said, "Hey, both people you spoke with on Friday came and said that you made them feel really uncomfortable with how you were raising your voice." Immediately, he apologizes and owns it. Immediately says, "I was out of line. That was not appropriate. I can do better. I'm gonna apologize to them." I, Amazing response. It doesn't always go that way. Sometimes they get really defensive and then they want to let you know that they were in the right. In this case, his behavior was, "I knew I was out of line. I need to apologize." And we got off the phone. And he went and apologized. If I had sent that email to him saying the same thing I said with rapport and love and care and concern for who he was, he could have spiraled, right? Maybe he would have gone and sabotaged our company in some way. Maybe he would have hated me for years, all because I sent it in an email rather than having a phone call with him. So yeah, I don't ever want to say something critical in writing if I could just call somebody.
No, absolutely. And I've seen it blow up on myself throughout my life. Obviously, I'm a work in progress, right? We work on ourselves, but I definitely talk to people about that all the time.
But
Um,
why do
e-
we do it? We do it because we think we're so busy we don't have time to take the it took longer.
to
I could have
generate that
just
text or
I could have
email.
just sent it on Saturday and, like, okay, problem solved, right? I don't have time to go wait until Monday, see if he picks up the phone, have this conversation. I'll have other things in my mind on Monday. I'll just send it because I don't have time. Here's the point. You're going to create far more issues for yourself that will take far more time than if you had just gone slow with the relationship. And relationships really, really matter. So we want to go slow with them. And we're talking about happiness, right? Relationships are either our source of our most pain or our most joy. And
Oh,
so
isn't
what
that the truth?
what makes more sense? Like being efficient with your time and sending off a critique in writing, or taking the time to really value relationships, which is where all your happiness can come from.
Oh, yeah. It's at the end of the day, it's you might find this statement offensive or chuckle at it. It's better to be thought an idiot than open your mouth and remove all doubt, right? I'd rather somebody think that I'm a hard ass than for me to prove that I'm a hard ass by putting it down in print or saying it verbally because I didn't put in that energy to be compassionate, empathetic. And like you
Hmm.
said, that conversation yesterday, it was very quick, and the email could have spiraled out of control because another thing that emails or in print does is it allows them to read it over and over again, and then they can be in different moods when they're reading it, and it can put them into sadness, anger. It's just like a spiraling effect, right?
Well, my
So
my energy is one of love, care, respect, and integrity. That's just how I carry myself now. When I speak with people, they feel my energy more than they hear my words. If I had sent those same words, he would have read it in his energy, which is frustrated, annoyed, and angry. So he would have read me as frustrated, annoying, and angry, and could have hated his own energy. But speaking with me, when I have love, care, and respect, you can never get that from me. Even if I say the words that you would read in anger, just my presence and who I am is not going to have that come across.
oh,
That's who
absolutely.
all of us are, except if you're angry. So if you are angry, we need to heal it, and we can heal it. And anger is like a really positive emotion for us when we use it to create positive change in our lives, or it's a ridiculously destructive emotion when we point it at other people and blame people for things. So we got to be real careful with anger.
So what's your take on, and this is something I've researched and discussed in many different circumstances and dealt with myself. Anger, do you believe that certain emotions, though, that some are primary and some are secondary? Like I've always believed at one time that you're just angry. But really, at the end of the day, when I researched it, anger is more of a secondary emotion. You have an initial triggering emotion that if we can learn to process or recognize that initial emotion, we can not all the time, but we can diffuse and make that anger less or not even have it happen. What's your take on that? Primary and secondary emotions and how they affect
Absolutely.
us.
Yeah, anger can be a primary emotion. Um, but typically, the majority of the time, it's a secondary emotion. And it's covering up either hurt, old hurt or present hurt, or fear. And again, old fear or present fear. So the best thing to do when you do feel anger coming on is to ask yourself these two questions. Where am I feeling hurt? And how am I feeling afraid? And once you get to the root of it, so in this situation with this guy who was so angry, he, um, a mistake had happened with a contractor that was going to cost him $3,800. Well, if he'd asked himself, how am I feeling hurt? He might have said, I'm hurt that this guy didn't take care of my client in the way I wanted him to, and that just kind of makes me feel really sad that. And then how am I feeling afraid? Well, maybe I don't have $3,800 right now. Maybe I can't pay my electric bill this month, and I'm really afraid. And so then the anger makes us really big and powerful. We think that I'll just overpower everyone and I won't deal with the hurt and the fear underneath of it. But when you get to the root of it and you say, how am I feeling hurt? And you say, man, I feel like maybe this guy disrespected me. Well, then we can start to work with that and we can heal that. But we can't heal this a secondary emotion, which is just covering up the first two.
Yeah, wow. What a great breakdown. That is so true. We just to actually sit though is the biggest challenge I think most of us have, Matt, where we sit and think. We all react, most of us. We don't actually think. We don't put some effort into, as you're mentioning, thinking what's causing this. Why am I like this? Why am I feeling this way? And that's what I was getting at about the primary and secondary emotions. Now when I feel myself getting angry, I have some checks and balances in place where I literally analyze that circumstance before it gets to a point where it can boil over, where I feel like I'm empowering myself and I'm going to be that tough person and my anger is going to overshadow and fix everything. It actually makes things worse, right?
Yeah.
It really never gets us to where we want to go.
Well, we use it again as a way to get compliance fast. We learned that if I yell at somebody, like let's say I yell at somebody because there's a hair in my soup, the manager will come over and give us a free soup. We're like, shh, man, sweet. All I got to do is yell and I get free stuff. Amazing. Or we yell at our kids because they're not listening and all of a sudden they fall in line. You're like, oh, sweet. All I got to do is yell at my kids and they'll do what I ask them to do. And so we're conditioned to think that if we just raise our voice and use this rage, we'll get what we want. What we don't realize is what you said, it doesn't ever give us what we want. What we really want is happiness. And when you're, angry about a hair in your soup, rather than being grateful that you have the ability to be at a restaurant at all, you're not happy. You're feeling indignant and you're feeling dissatisfied and you're telling somebody how dissatisfied you are and you're spreading your dissatisfaction now to the manager and the waiter. They're going home to their spouse and maybe having a bad night because you spread this like darkness out of you and onto them. You've made the world a darker place as you express this anger. Your kids, maybe they fall in line and they do what that you say today, but maybe tomorrow they don't respect you. Maybe they love you less. They're not safe in what they're feeling. You've really destroyed everything you truly want by using this weapon of anger, and it didn't actually give you what you want. We just kind of think it does.
Yeah, you're so correct. I look at how people react to their children too, as a side note, and they'll yell at their kids. And this is gonna trigger some people listening. If you're getting upset at your kids because of their behavior, sometimes it's because what you've done to trigger that behavior. Maybe you've given them, red dye 40 with some sugar and a bunch of other things, and it's 30 minutes before you want them to go to bed.
Yeah.
But you convinced yourself, oh, you know what, they've been really good and this and that. I'm gonna let them have this sugary pop or this candy before they go to bed. And then you turn around and when they're hyper, because now you've taken their sugar levels and put it through the roof, which affects their emotional stability and their ability to control their behavior, now you're yelling at them. So
Well,
as
I've
a
got,
side note, we need to take responsibility for our kids' behavior
yeah.
instead of reacting to them and yelling at them.
Well, I've got four young kids, as you know, and getting them out of the house to school or, to go to school, putting their shoes on, picking out what they want for lunch, eating their breakfast, doing their hair, doing contacts. There's a lot of different things that happen in the morning to get out of the house. And in perpetually and there's four of them, it's like trying to like herd cats, dude. And we're like,
Yeah,
all
I
right,
know.
hey, put your shoes on. You get your shoes on, get off that iPad. It's like we're trying to get out of the house and get to school on time. This was this morning. And my wife was getting agitated. She carries the bulk of the morning time work. I do 100% of the day on Thursday. That's my commitment, and then I help out on other days. But I'm like, you need a day off, girl. You go for a walk with your friends Thursday morning. I got it all day. You don't even have to worry about it. Um, and of course, when it's just one day, man, I could just be playful dad, and it's like a lot of fun. But anyway, this morning, so we got all these kids, and my daughter's on her iPad, and my son won't put his shoes on, and my other daughter's like saying, I wanted my hair braided. We're like, we don't have time for hair braiding. And we're trying to get out of the house. And it's like we didn't feed them the sugary thing. We didn't give them the red dye. And sometimes we're like so intent on getting what we want. I want to be on time that we
Well, our
forget.
emotional regulation is tough when you're dealing with young kids first thing in the morning.
Yeah, we
It's
we
hell, it's hard
forget.
enough to deal for ourselves, just us, and then you add kids into the mix, and their
We
emotional regulation is just like ah.
we forget though that the relationship with them is more important than being on time.
Oh, agreed.
And and it's easy to do. And of course, we'll raise our voice sometimes. And And when we do that, they know that, hey, okay, we actually do need to listen right now. But part of it, the reason that they don't listen too, maybe that we're not super strict on them. So then that comes back on us as well. But at the end of the day, they're just kids, man. They're young. We're talking like a 6-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 3-year-old. These are young humans that they don't always just listen the way that adults would listen, and adults don't always listen the way you think adults should listen. So giving them some grace and some compassion. When my energy is high and I'm super happy, I can handle all of it. When my energy is low or something else like work is bothering me, that would be the time that I would snap. And so it really doesn't have anything to do with them or their behavior. It's more about where's my happiness level. One of the reasons I say spend so much time working on your own happiness is that when you are filled, when your cup is full, you can be playful and fun even in a stressful moment. And when your cup is empty and you're depleted and you don't have any happiness within you, you can be a total jerk when things get tough. And
Oh,
that's I don't want to be a total jerk.
well, who does want to? I look at what you're talking about, and I think about emotional regulation, and it's not necessarily what the kids have done. Their behavior is maybe a catalyst of what we've instigated in them, not necessarily like you mentioned, having sugar or dyes and stuff. It's just their kids being kids. I call it my love tank is just empty, right? My
Mm-hmm.
You can call it your
Yeah.
happy tank, whatever is empty. And I should literally bite my lip and just walk away. Because remember, I raised five of them,
Yeah.
right? Four
So it's
daughters
so
and a
many,
son,
dude. It's so
right?
many. It's so
And,
many humans.
exactly. And I did it many years as a single dad, right?
Oh, it's a
Before at one
ton, dude.
time went from joint custody to being full time custody, and it is a lot of
Yeah.
work. So you talk about that, giving your wife the Thursday. I didn't have the Thursday.
Oh,
Every
dude.
day was it was lit. It was on, right? It was excuse
Well,
me.
and then so then at some point, and so one of the positive moods is surrender and acceptance. And at some point, we just have to surrender. We surrender. Okay, the mornings aren't going to go perfect. When I am doing things on my own and they're not listening, I surrender. I'm just like, okay, you guys are probably going to get school lunch today. I don't have the capacity to put these lunches together. Like we gotta roll with what we got. And if we roll in late and people want to judge me for being late, that's on them. But I truly just want to have fun with my kids, no matter how messy life can be. I just want to be in a good mood if I can. It's totally possible.
It's all based on you, though, right? It's all based on us. Like you say, if it's possible, that's true. But, we hear all these people talk about it, at least for myself in the last, 30 years that I've been doing self-help, 20 years for you. It, we literally find excuses and we find reasons for not taking responsibility and doing whatever it takes. I'm not saying that it's perfect, that I can be
No way.
purposeful right now and I'm trying my hardest to be happy for my kids. Sometimes I look at them, depending on their age appropriate, I'd be honest with them. I'd have those, some people will call it that connection, that come to Jesus moment where you're just being that really kind and thoughtful person. And I used to tell my kids, you know what, right now dad's not in the right headspace to deal with what you're putting down. I
Yep.
don't know if it's you, I don't know if it's me. We need to time each other out. Can we talk about this an hour from now, 2 hours from now? Did that
Well,
always work? No, sometimes it would just be like blah. I'd
I'll
throw
give
up
you
my hands and I'd walk away, or
I'll
I'd
give you
try to
I'll give
walk
you
away.
last I'll give you last night. So I received disappointing news. And I get an email or a text message, and somebody I'd really wanted to work with said, "Hey, it's not going to be a fit." And so I'm feeling rejected. And Katie was super busy, and so I'm like, I'm going to do dinner. I'm going to create dinner for all six of us. Like I've got this. I'm going to do it all. And you did this every day. I mean, but it's a lot of work, man.
Oh,
Get dinner on the
every
table.
every day. Then
Yeah,
all
it's a
the
lot.
extracurricular activities on
Oh
top of
yeah,
that.
that's a lot. So I'm dealing with the sting of rejection. I've been rejected. And so that's one of the eight bad moods. It's the theme of rejection is that feeling that maybe I'm rejectable, I'm not lovable. And I don't have any music on. I'm husking corn as I'm thinking about these thoughts of I'm like, okay, I understand I'm feeling rejected. Um, you know, and so I ask myself the question, is this rejection because I'm not worthy, right? Or I'm not lovable? And I'm like, no. Okay, well, what's the opposite? I am lovable. I am worthy. What are reasons I am lovable? I am worthy. I'm just going through like the mental thought processes that get us out of this emotion, but I still have to deal with it. We still get rejection. We still get people that say, I'm going to do something else. I'm not going to work with you. It's still disappointment and it's real life. And we feel bad about it sometimes. So I'm dealing with that work disappointment. And then my son like takes something and dumps it all over everywhere. And so there's a huge mess. I'm cooking burgers. They're burning. My son also wants to cook and flip all the burgers with me. And there's like not time. I'm trying to time everything right. I've got the corn, I got the potato chips are trying to get on the plate, all this stuff. And then my daughter comes in. I'm like, hey, would you guys help like set the table? My daughter comes in and she like pushes my other daughter out of the way. And she's like, I'm gonna do the napkins and you do the drinks. And I'm like, I actually don't need you to do either with that energy right now. So would you just not do either? She storms off. She decides she's not going to eat with us because now she feels rejected because I asked her not to help us with either. And I get dinner on the table and she's like way off on the other side of the house. And I go up and I talk with her and um, I said, hey, I'm just gonna level with you. I got a rejection at work. Just as exactly what you said, Dwight. I'm just honesty. Hey, I got she's 10. So I'm talking with her like an adult. Hey, I got a rejection at work. It didn't, my headspace isn't great as I'm trying to work through those emotions. Brady dumped out all of his toys all over the floor. I stepped on one, I hurt my foot. The burgers were burning. And when I asked for a little bit of help, you know, you coming in and pushing your sister, it made things even harder for me. So I ask you not to bring that energy in because I was just trying to make it. Like I'm just trying to tread water in that situation. And I'm like, I understand that your feelings are hurt. I love you so much. You are so loved. Even when you coming in and not feeling super great about helping, I love you in that moment. I love you in this moment. It'd be nice if you came and sat down and had dinner with us, or you can choose to keep being upset and keep giving me coldness, and that's your choice too. And I'll love you if you feel cold and don't want to eat with us. And I went back and I sat down and she very slowly wakes her way to the table, sits down and turns her back to me and doesn't eat for like 10 minutes because she's processing her own emotions of rejection, right? And
Yeah, of
of
course.
course, I'm her dad, so I talk with her about this stuff. So she understands that something's going on inside her head. And by the end of the meal, she's standing up telling me all about cheer practice, and she's so excited and showing me her new cheers and her new dances. It was a moment that worked out, but it was messy, man. And I do think being vulnerable with people in our lives when things are overwhelming and just being honest, like, hey, I've got a lot that I manage, and this is what I'm managing right now. I care about you. If I didn't speak in the way you wanted me to speak, I just wanted you to know why. And being vulnerable is a key to happiness.
Oh, absolutely. And it is not something that you can look up the definition of vulnerability, but to apply it and live it isn't that easy, right? It's especially based on our circumstances of our origins, you and I, and what we've gone through in our lives. Vulnerability can be used as a weapon against us. We can be
Sure.
vulnerable and then people throw it in our face. And all I can tell to those listening or watching is being vulnerable. The more vulnerable I am, the more people that are in my tribe that I influence and that influence me, our worlds overlap and we're more happy because we know that that vulnerability is us being our genuine self so that we can continue to connect. And that can be our children, it can be our best friends, our significant others, even our clients. I have some clients of mine that are so good at friends with me. We became friends because they were my clients, and that vulnerability of sharing and that connection. is something that I continue to strive for. Sometimes I think, oh, if I say that, how are they going to react? Now I'm just like, if I say that and they react, it's going to be a circumstances where I find out who they are and what our relationship is. And
Yeah,
sometimes
can
it's a
I
good
trust
thing.
them? Can I
Yeah,
trust them?
it's not bad.
There's some people that look, we extend that vulnerability and we think we can trust them, and then they show us that we really couldn't trust them. And that's okay too. Not everybody needs to be in our inner circle.
The truth. We deserve the truth. Us, we, like I shouldn't say we, I deserve the truth of what, because I've been friends with people. I don't know about you, Matt, 10, 15, 20 years, and you really think we know people, but we really don't. They only present what they want you to be. And that is, to me, is not a true relationship. I'm not saying I'm going to know 100% of who Matt is, but I hope I know enough about him that his vulnerability is genuine and mine to him, our happiness, our sadness, our anger, that we can share it and not judge one another. That's an evolution of a relationship. But I've had so many relationships, like I said, 10, 15, 20 years where I thought it was genuine and it was a giant facade. And how did I figure that out? Personal development, self help, the journey of
Yeah.
me continuing to grow, to accept and realize and perpetuate a different a message. I'm not the
Yeah.
same person. I've
And
changed.
as you grow and as the person as you listen to this and you're listening to what Dwight has to say, you're continuing to grow. Sometimes we grow beyond the people that were a good fit for us at one stage of our evolution and they stop growing. And if that relationship is no longer one that is like one where you can be your true authentic self, guess what? You're a whole new person. You're going to attract whole new people into your sphere who are in alignment with your new vibration and they'll fit you now. So
That's your new season of life,
yeah,
right?
that's it.
The
That's
old
it.
season, the people stay behind. And one thing I will say, people will say, well, that person didn't work out for me. I still look back at all the relationships I had that are no longer, there's no longer a connection. And I worked at analyzing those relationships. And I call it analyzing because I wanted to pull the seeds of greatness, the gratefulness out of that relationship and not focus on the negativity and be that person. Well, I used to be friends with this person and all that does is perpetuate and feed inner turmoil. I want to say, you know what? They were in that season of my life. I learned this great things from them. We had this memory. We hung out and did this, and I flushed the crap because you know what? We're no longer friends. So holding on to the crap ain't gonna help us even when we if we decide to continue to stay friends. I want to focus on the goodness in people and analyze, accept. If I'm still friends with Matt, we have a conversation. If we can't resolve it, then like you said, we're not meant to be. Sometimes it's just I've outgrown them.
That's
Maybe
it.
they've outgrown me. I don't
Maybe,
know.
probably not.
I
Probably not.
I don't know. I
There's
don't.
not too many people growing more than you, Dwight.
Oh, I don't know about that, brother. You're right along the same path as me. All right. Age is just a number, right? Maybe it's taken me a little bit longer to get where you've already graduated to,
It's
right?
fun. It's
And I
fun
can
when our,
appreciate that.
well, I think we also started at our own unique level. I think we all start at our own unique level. I can see that, you can see that as a father, that some of your kids come in with a little more wisdom than your other ones.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
and you're like, huh, that's interesting that this child just has like a quiet wisdom about them. So I do think we all come in with our own unique starting point, and then we want to just grow from that moment. So someone who comes in with an emotionally less wise starting point, they're no worse or no better than anyone else, but they do have an opportunity to grow just like we all do.
Yeah, we all start differently on the time life, right? On a timeline of our journeys. So one of the things I wanted to get into is your book, Good Book Revolution. What was it like writing your book, Matt? Did you find it healing? Did you find it cathartic? Did it help you deal with any of your past life challenges putting that book together?
Yeah, that book was awesome for me. I'm the biggest benefactor of writing the Good Mood Revolution book. And I did not want to be inauthentic. So the first half of the book is how to get out of the 8 bad moods that plague our happiness. I had to deal with all 8 on such a profound level. It took me 4 years to write this book. because I would not put out something that I didn't authentically stand behind, like was the truth on how to work your way through these things. So I had to deal with all of the 8 negative emotions on like a super real life, big level to have techniques on how to get out. And I write my stories of how I dealt with them in there. And then there's 8 positive moods, and they're like super aspirationally high, like feeling like full of love all the time, feeling completely at peace. Like these are really difficult emotions to maintain. And I'm like, I cannot put out a book about how to maintain a feeling of peace if I'm not feeling peaceful for extended periods of time. So I had to learn how to be super peaceful for extended periods of time, how to extend love even in challenging situations, how to be joyful for no reason when hard things were going on. I had to learn those things in order to write them down and be true to my words. So it took 4 years to write that book, but the techniques are solid because I've lived them. They're world tested. And at the end of the day, you're right. Like I benefited because now I know how to be peaceful, loving, and joyful.
Well, it helps that I know my book, it was so cathartic. I had moments where I cried reading stuff, and
Oh yeah.
I'd rewrite that chapter and send it off to the editor, and they'd sometimes rewrite certain sections that they thought would sound better, right?
Hmm.
That flashing, and I'd be like, no, this is the way it's gonna be, right? You're hired by me to put across my vulnerability in my story, but it's got to be genuine in how I speak. So one of the things though, we talked about it, we've heard a lot about it. Let's dive into those 8 moods, right? Please, like you've obviously through our conversation, you've dropped this is one of them, this is one of them.
Hmm.
But let's actually, if you wouldn't mind, go through and list and break down. Obviously we can't go in too depth. We're almost at the end of the podcast, but give the listeners and people watching a taste of what they can expect in regards to those 8 moods, please.
Yeah, the first mood we've discussed is the feeling of shame. There's something wrong with me. It's the hardest one, but we can turn it around. It's just a series of thoughts. And the book teaches like how to flip those thoughts around. And once we do, man, the world becomes a much more beautiful place. That is we all have some of that emotion to deal with. The next one is the wound of judgment, where we are harsh critics of ourselves and others. This is guilt. We can become much more positive people when we start to affirm everything that's right rather than everything that's wrong. And so that's the solution to that second one. The third negative emotion is the emotion of hopelessness, also overwhelm. These two are the two are the same. It's we no longer trying to hurt anybody else in that emotion, but we're prone to hurting ourselves because we're thinking the world is beyond hope. The only way out of that emotion is help from someone else. So if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling like life is hopeless, it is not. It is just a normal human emotion. We all feel it, and you got to ask for help because we can't get out of if we really think it's hopeless, we don't think we can get out of it. So, but we can. You just need somebody to help you. The next emotion is the emotion of sadness or loss. We're all going to experience it. Unfortunately, everyone we love is going to die. I mean, that's a hard one. And our health is going to decline and we're going to get sick and we're going to die. And so that like we lose so many things all the time. And if we stay stuck in this emotion of sadness about things changing, like it just makes us feel bad. Everything's changing all the time. Life is always changing. Every single day is change. So we can either be really excited and empowered about the possibilities that change can bring, or we can cling to wishing that they hadn't changed. And so there's some good lessons in there about how to not stay stuck in sadness. The next emotion is the emotion of fear, anxiety, this thought that things could go wrong, that I have to protect myself. Yeah, I mean, that can be helpful. It can be helpful to think about what could go wrong. However, staying stuck in anxiety doesn't make us happy. So we want to take action on what we can, and then we have to trust. And there's some pretty good keystone actions that we can take in the book. For me, the number one thing I do is I just ask my fear. I say, what are you specifically afraid of? And if you ask, the fear like is this big cloud of fear. We don't really know what we're afraid of. We're just feeling anxious. When you ask, you can break through to a pinpoint and say, what am I specifically afraid of? and you'll get an answer. And that's kind of what I was talking with that one story with the guy who was so angry and he lost the $3,800. If he asked himself, what am I specifically afraid of? He might say, man, I'm just afraid I won't have enough money to survive. Great. Once you figure it out, then you say, well, what actions could I take today that would make my situation better? Oh, okay. Well, maybe I could like go to work and find a new client. Okay. As soon as you take action, the fear goes away every time. So that's the solution to fear. The next one is a tricky one because it's good and bad. And it's the emotion of lust, desire. It feels so good to finally desire a better life. However, if you get stuck in desire, it's insatiable and you can never achieve enough and be enough to fill this void of inadequacy that you feel when you want and want and want and want. We want to create from knowing we're enough right now. The last two, we've talked about anger. Anger is the second to last. Again, it could be really positive if we say, I want to use this anger to create change for the better for myself rather than pointing it at other people. And the final bad mood, a lot of people like raise their eyebrows to this, but it's pride. We think being proud is a really good thing. And yes, compared to all the lower bad moods, it is a good thing. But pride is ultimately a negative emotion. When we're feeling prideful, we're feeling superior to other people and we're comparing ourselves on an imaginary totem pole of who's better and who's worse. And comparison is the death of joy. So we want to move past pride and then start to move into authentic good moods that have a base in courage, integrity, and honesty.
Wow. For those listening to the show, as Matt was talking about them, I was applying them almost immediately against my template of what I do in my life and what I feel. And these are bang on. Like honestly, completely bang on. We could have another podcast episode just on talking about each one of these and sharing stories, which I think we're going to have to do because, unfortunately, we've got to the end of the podcast. We're pretty close to the end here. And there's so many different things that you, the listener, the viewer, um, need to understand. And there's so much that we talked about throughout the podcast. We get to this point, and you're thinking, I don't want you to feel like you are left like holding the bag, you're hanging, right? Hopefully you're going to go and buy your book. Like where can they find your book, Matt?
Yeah, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, it's available everywhere. But it's called the Good Mood Revolution, and it does tell you how to overcome these 8 negative moods. Or for free, you can go check out Good Mood Revolution podcast, and I this is just what I'm passionate about. So we discuss it every week.
Well, that's awesome. I will ensure that goes into our show notes for our episode. Normally I ask this in a few minutes, but I'll tell people that are new to the show, just go to giveaheck.com, go into the podcast part of the website. You'll see a picture of Matt, and I'll have his links for social, website access, so that you can continue to move forward on the journey of what you've just started. I can't even imagine how much more um, hope you could gain by listening to his podcast. I know, honestly, myself, it's something I want to listen to now. Right?
Oh man,
There's
appreciate the
there's
invite.
there's such a sea of podcasts out there, and are they really a podcast or is it a book or is it whatever you're putting into yourself? Is it something that can make a true difference in your life? And you need to start somewhere. So you're listening to my podcast, add another one, right? Go to the Good Mood Revolution. And sorry, I said book earlier. I wrote that down wrong. But yes, Good Mood Revolution is your book. It's your podcast. It's your brand, right? It's what Matt is delivering to the world to make a difference to, well, not even make a difference. He already is making a difference. He's made a difference in my life, and it's only been a couple hours, and it's amazing.
Same,
So I
Dwight.
appreciate
Same,
it.
bro. I
I
really
really
appreciate being
appreciate.
on here, dude. We're like brothers from another mother, man. Just on
Absolutely.
the other side of the border.
Absolutely. So, and we will talk about it off air about getting you on again because I would love to go more in depth. And there's so many things I never got to, which actually that people will get anxious about that. I don't. I get excited about that. Because if
Good.
I've covered everything, we haven't had a great conversation.
Oh, dude, we
It
could we
hasn't
could
flowed.
talk. You and me, man, we could swap stories for days.
Okay. Well, we should maybe talk about a dual podcast that we have outside of our own. Could you
Oh,
imagine what you and I
dude,
could do in this world?
it'd
The
be so fun.
changes,
Yeah,
your life experiences and my life experiences. Again, timeline has nothing to do with it. I may be older than you and more, have some more experiences than you, but I could always learn. I always approach everybody that they have something that I need, that I can learn, that I can fill in here to continue to evolve as a human being so I can serve others better. That's my whole goal, even with my podcast, is to continually grow and learn so that I can serve others better. And yeah, you're one of those people. So thank you so much for coming on the show. The last question for you for this episode, anyway. Matt, if you had to give our listeners one last closing message, what would you tell them in regards to giving a heck and never giving up?
I would say keep listening to Dwight. You are pouring into yourself every single time you show up to this podcast because he is pouring his love and his energy into you, and just keep growing with him.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And again, right back at you. I hope you end up gaining some new listeners from this. I look forward to checking out your podcast and, being one of your minions, I guess they would call it, right? Your people that are going to follow you and appreciate you and hang on every word, right? Isn't that what we'd all like? That people would hang on all of our words, that we'd have that much impact. Obviously, realistically, can't be 100%, but the more the merrier.
Absolutely, man. Well, thank you so much.
Any last closing words before I wrap up the show?
Have the best time with your kids, bro. I know they're coming in just a few minutes. Just have the best
Yeah.
week with.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to do a lot of fun things this week. Go to a movie, hang out, make s'mores, do stuff like that,
I
right?
want to see I want to see Deadpool Wolverine. I got a date for that
I
movie
went
on
last night.
Friday.
I
How
went
was
last
it?
night. It was good, actually. I wouldn't, to be honest with you, as a movie person, that I'm a movie buff, it was good, but there was a lot of cheesy over violence. I wouldn't take young kids to it, that's for sure. Like
No,
it's
no.
way, way over violent, but
Yeah.
it was entertainment. So when I go to a movie, did it entertain me? And then my next factor, would I watch it again? When it comes
Yeah.
out again, would I'll jump to watch it again? Yeah,
Probably
I
not.
give it I give it
Yeah.
about a 6, right? 5 or
Well,
6.
well,
But it
we're
was good to it
excited.
was good to go to it. Like I took my son.
Yeah.
He works out of north of northern Alberta. He's back for a week. I took my cousin and him, and we went to it last night and enjoyed it. It was good entertainment. But wow, Ryan Reynolds is so funny, but their level of intensity has gone up. You'll
We,
see.
yeah, good. Awesome, man.
Thanks, brother. So, going to wrap up the show again. Thanks so much for being on Give a Heck, Matt. I appreciate your time and sharing some of your experiences so that others too can learn. It is never too late to give a heck. Thank you for taking time out of your day and listening to Give a Heck. If you find value, I'd appreciate you sharing with your friends and family so they too can learn how to live life on purpose, not by accident. So you do not miss the next episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and please also post a review. I look forward to reading your comments. This has been Dwight Heck. If you want to check out other podcast episodes or today's show notes, please check out my website, giveaheck.com. And until next time, together let us all strive to give a heck.